We join together to remember Robert W. Gluckman. And we do so in our tradition, turning into the book of Psalms for comfort. There it is written, Esai nai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Eternal, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. Adonai yishmor tzeitecha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. May the Eternal guard your soul and your going and your coming, now and forever. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. Psalm 15 is considered the gentleman's prayer, and so we read it for Bob. Adonai mi yagur be'ohalecha mi yishkon behar kodshecha. O God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain? And the answer certainly describes him. Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract. Those who live in this way shall never be forsaken. Death has summoned our beloved Robert Gluckman. Our souls cry out unto you, O God, what are we? Are we the creatures of dust, whose destiny is but to return to the dust from which we came? The ancient sage has taught us the spirit of the human being is the lamp of the Eternal. Not even the darkness of death can extinguish the light which the Eternal has kindled in the sanctuary of the human soul. Therefore, O God, we thank you in this solemn hour for that which was deathless in the life of our cherished Bob, and which is now revealed to us in all of its beauty. For his love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship which we shared along life's path and which still continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and his mind, which brought us joy and happiness and now have become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, we give you our praise. Grant unto us, O God, the strength of all the generations of our people who in the face of bereavement proclaimed, Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Still, blessed be the name of God. This past High Holy Days at our temple, we introduced a new machzor, a new High Holiday prayer book. Galen, as you thumbed your way through those prayers, You were taken by a variety of the different prayers, and you asked me to find a poem from there or a reading from there that we could share today. So in our High Holy Day Machzor, we find this passage written by the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai about his father. It goes like this. The memory of my father is wrapped up in white paper, like sandwiches taken for a day at work. Just as a magician takes towers and rabbits out of his hat, he drew love from his small body, and the rivers of his hands overflowed with good deeds. Galen and Mitchell, I could not help but see your father, Robert Gluckman, in this poem too. The sandwich of the poet reminded me of the description you shared of your father as a food lover, not of some high-quality kinds of food, but of the simple kind, the kind that if you're having a bite wafts up for his interest too. I think you quoted him as saying, "Don't be so selfish, bring some of that over here." Chocolate and pistachios didn't stand a chance if he even suspected of them being nearby. Like the father in the poem, your father had a lot of work to do each day, often only leaving enough time for a quick sandwich. His years in retail sales and as a manager of Forest City Lumber Division meant he worked long hours and many of them. And home was not always a respite from work, as he lovingly took care of your mom, from her early years of difficult health from heart attacks that started when she was just 37, to the debilitating effects of multiple sclerosis on her body. Bob didn't see this caregiving as work, however, not even duty. He saw it as the gift he was given to keep the family together. The poem refers to the magician, and you told me that Bob was a magician. And as a magician, he told you a magician never reveals his secrets. He had the standard pull the coin out of your ear trick, which he did not do so well apparently. But Bob's tricks were different. He had the trick of making it look easy. You could watch him again and again, shower you with unconditional love, and marvel at how he made it to all of your and then your children's meaningful events over a lifetime. He was a magician with his tools as well, loving to fix things up around his house and then yours. He also would show you how to do it for yourself. He wanted there to be no mystery, in that he was carefully guiding you toward independence in so many areas of your life. He made the secrets of caring about you and nurturing you look effortless too. Kind of like the way he'd talk about wrestling matches on television. But you always knew there was a sprinkle of magic dust that made him such a specimen, as he referred to the players. Not the Hulk Hogan kind that he enjoyed watching and even took you to see in person, but the kind of specimen that shows true strength, the kind you can't fake for an audience, but that radiates from within. As if the poet were describing your father, he pointed to how his father's hands, like Bob's hands, overflowed with good deeds. Of course, as you put it, Bob could be lovingly stubborn about issues. At 93 years old, he was still driving, and he was directing political campaigns from his front row seat in his living room, celebrating the revival of Cleveland with the RNC, to relishing the big Cavs win, to learning to love baseball as the Indians almost took the World Series, and he remained faithful to the Browns. Somehow Bob maintained the attitude of hope springs eternal and always wore his spring coat as he took his 3 generations to enjoy the Cleveland winters at the Browns games. And most importantly, he never gave up on his team or his family team, or for that matter, anyone he loved. Strong and silly, he was the picture of good health, and the one others counted on for sage advice and entertainment. As families prepare to gather to the Thanksgiving table, you gather here for a moment of thanksgiving for all that was true and beautiful in Bob's life. You, Bob's children, Gayleen and Mitch, and his son and daughter-in-law, Sid and Linda, whom he treated like his own. Sid, you knew him from the time that you would visit Gayleen in high school, and knew from even then that he was a treasure and would be a treasure in your life. At those giving thanks for Bob are also his grandchildren, or Papa as you refer to him, Penny and Matt, Jamie, and Michaela. Those who are gathered here as family, relatives, friends, all of you know that you have much to be grateful for because of Bob's example of a life so well lived. Bob enjoyed the simple pleasures of life. He might enjoy unwrapping a sandwich at his work or pouring himself a vodka gimlet after work and listening to his familiar musical selections or the new talent being discovered on television shows. But in his own uncomplicated way, he was also creating for you a set of values that remain at the core. The family treasure, the treasure of family. Bob did not have the luxury of a lasting sense of a strong family in his initial years. When he was just 13, his mother Marie passed, and then 10 years later, his father Maurice. Upon graduating from Cleveland Heights High School, Bob enlisted in the Army Air Corps and was fortunate to be stationed in Tampa during the war, working as a mechanic, readying the B-52 and the Memphis Belle, that B-17 flying fortress about which later movies were made and which Bob always enjoyed watching. After the service, he lived at the YMCA because his sister, 10 years his senior, had already married and moved out to California. He would go out later on with his family to try that for a year. Bob's life would find its grounding and its security, though, when he was fixed up with the woman who would become his lifelong partner. Justine and Bob were married for 65 years, and to say he was devoted to her is almost an understatement. Theirs was a love affair apparent to everyone who knew them. Respectful of each other, their joy was to keep each other entertained. While there were the big trips to London, to Bermuda, and Hawaii, Bob and Justine were just as happy to take drives in the local Amish country together, to play in a bowling league or a card game with friends, or to scout the city for parts for his projects around the house. He was devoted to her in the way he took care of her and made sure that he visited her every day in the nursing home. The thing was that Bob was a voracious reader, and he liked to teach himself new things, but he recognized that Justine's direct care requirements were beyond his expertise during those last 10 years of her life. Together they modeled commitment to each other and created a family that would remain committed to each other. For Gayleen, that also meant that from a young age, you were taking care of much of the household duties, but you did it to help your father. That would be the way you lived your whole life, devoting to helping your father maintain his independence. He didn't want to go live with old people, as he referred to them. He had a young soul. Along with Sid and raising your children nearby, you were all dedicated to keeping him involved in your lives. He'd attend your many activities and was even dubbed the Brush High School mascot, as he affectionately referred to you as his blondie. He liked to be a part of your life and a part of your drill team's experience too. But at your family holiday tables, he was the gatherer and the one who made sure that you, like he, would be proud of being Jewish, and that the Seder and moments of Jewish life and the values of Jewish tradition would be handed down to you. The kippot that you wear today are a reminder that he collected them from each of your sacred moments. With Mitchell's family a lot further away, there were the visits for holiday celebrations, or for Jamie and Michaela's performances, or just to hang out that all kept you close. Phone calls back and forth, sometimes sweet, sometimes an interrogation, were also part of the joy of your life together with him. Bob lived vicariously through all his grandchildren and partook of through your lives of the kind of childhood that he never really got to enjoy on his own. He was inquisitive with you, sometimes making you feel more like it was an inquisition as he pushed you to justify your positions or interests. Because that technique strengthened your convictions and taught you to articulate your views so clearly, sometimes you'd even convince Bob, and in the middle of a conversation, he'd switch sides, arguing your point. You'd tease him about this, and he was a good sport about being teased and could dish it back at you. He had a wonderful sense of humor and a strong concern for you. And when there were weddings to celebrate, he was the first to welcome Richard and Lauren and Jeremy and John, and his cup did indeed runneth over with the blessing of his great-grandchildren as each came along. Papa was a big hit for Noah and Asher, for Brett and Jenna, for Brecken and Hayden. The silly voices he would use to talk with them made him a family favorite. You'll all have to share stories of Bob with the youngest amongst them to help them to know the special man he was in your lives. Bob gave you all the courage to explore your interests and to test your mental and physical boundaries. Accepting and yet making you earn it, he served as the inspiration to help you to develop a readiness for the challenges of life. The poet makes allusions to work, to love, and to acts of kindness that one performs. In the poet's mind and as in ours, these define the quality of a man. Bob worked hard in his life. He loved abundantly, Midor Lador, from generation to generation. And his acts of kindness will remain the driving force that will guide your own journey and motivate your continued connection to each other. As we find our way to the holiday upon us, may we give thanks to God for the precious life of Robert Gluckman, which remains an inspiration, as we join with the sages to declare, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be your blessing. Amen. I'd like to call on his grandchildren, Matt and Penny, to share their memories, and then his son, Mitch.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. So, my sister and I wanted to say a few words about our grandfather, our Papa. And while, of course, we're sad, we think we should find ways to remember him and laugh and smile at all the good times that were had and all the lessons that he taught us. So my earliest memories of my grandfather, of his woodworking area, his project area in his garage on Brompton, he was extremely handy. He was basically a builder, and he would try to teach me and show me the basics while I was growing up. Sort of adopted my own approach now. I just hire somebody when I have an issue. I don't know how proud he would be, but I at least recognize I can't do it as well as him. We shared and bonded over a passion for Cleveland sports, absolutely. My father, Papa, and I had a great tradition starting around the time that I was 9 or 10. When the Brown season schedule would come out, we would sit down and we decide which freezing cold December game that we would go to. And for that game, my dad and I would pull out as many of the warmest layers of clothing, really any material that we could find. An old coat, sleeping bag, could be a bedspread, whatever. Papa, on the other hand, would put on a sweatshirt and this lightweight Browns spring jacket, and that's it. Maybe gloves if there was a strong wind. And in 1990, we got tickets to a playoff game against the Bills, and it was a super competitive game. It was back and forth from the start. We happened to have two Bills fans sitting behind us, and each time the teams would score, we'd go back and forth talking trash to each other. And with about 10 seconds left in the game, and the Bills were threatening to steal the game away, Clay Matthews intercepted a Jim Kelly pass in the end zone, and the Browns won. And the rest of the stadium was screaming or just silently awestruck. And my grandfather turned around to the Bills fans and started barking like a rabid dog and dancing like a maniac. And he was just a big kid at those games, and it was so fun. Papa could also be compassionate and supportive. And another sports-related stories, a few years earlier than that, Penny and I were staying at Mama and Papa's while our parents were out of town for a short getaway. And the Cavs were in the playoff against the Bulls, and it was the year of the shot, of course. And Jordan hit the shot over Elo. I was sitting in front of the TV, just glued to it, and he hit that shot, and I was crushed. I ran upstairs to my uncle's old room, and I buried my face in the pillow. And Papa came upstairs, and he rubbed my back, and he said, I'd feel better tomorrow, that I shouldn't worry. And they'd be back, and they'd win the next time. Give me a sec here. Okay. All right, scene 2. So I could talk about him for a long time, but I really just wanted to recall a few stories, special memories that I had, and then just share with you how I'll remember him. And I'll remember him as a resilient man. He overcame the loss of his parents at a young age. He found his way to build a loving and supportive family. And to say that he was a dedicated husband, it doesn't do it justice. He put my grandmother first every single step of the way. And just such a great example to watch. Okay. Yeah. I'll remember him as somebody that loved to debate, and some people in his inner circle would contend that argue is a more suitable word to describe it. Outside of maybe a few occasions, I really do think that he just liked to learn how others think. He wanted to know what they were thinking and why they were thinking it. And could he have softened his approach? Perhaps. But it was Papa, and I learned a lot from him in these conversations, and definitely as I got older, I could appreciate them more. And of course, I'll remember him as a silly, goofy, lovable man. It was a perfect balance to, at times, some potent cynicism, and he could make you laugh so hard that you would cry from his self-deprecating stories and ridiculous facial expressions. Lately on my birthdays, he'd call me, and I'd let it go to voicemail because I knew he saw it as an opportunity to perform, and he'd leave his 30-something-year-old grandson a nonsensical message that would make me smile. I'd listen to it, and then I'd call him back and thank him for his latest performance. So, as we all say goodbye to him today, I'm just thankful that I had him as my grandfather for almost 40 years. I mean, that's so special. He was a dedicated grandfather, coming to our events. He would ask about school, our college experiences, and he was just proud of us, of what we were doing with our lives, and he told us that regularly. I'm thankful that he was able to get to know both of my children. My son, who's 7, had some really special visits with his Papa Bob. They were goofy together, and Papa would ask him questions about school and other activities, and my son Brett would teach him how to use his cell phone. Before I left New York on Monday, I asked Brett if there was anything that he wanted me to say for him. He said that he was sad that he was gone. But really happy that he got a chance to know him. We'll miss him. I'll miss him. Thank you, Papa. Stay silly. Love you.
Okay, I drink water now. Hold on a sec. Okay. My dose is gonna run. Oh, yeah, my dose is ready. Okay. Dear Papa, I can't believe you're gone. I really thought you'd live forever. I'm sad and my heart aches and I miss you. But I wish you peace and love and spending time catching up with Mama. I know she's missed you. If you had to leave us, I'm happy that you could be with Mama. There are so many words to describe you, Papa. Strong, funny, smart, inquisitive, caring, compassionate, brave, honest, dedicated, opinionated, ambitious, inventive, persistent, and lovable. Papa, you are truly a one-of-a-kind grandpa. You were supportive in our activities, loved meeting our friends. You were involved in our life, and we loved spending time with you. You wrote us letters at overnight camp, creating imaginary people that stuck with us the rest of our life. In case anybody would like to know, their names are Ook and Mook and Schlabutsky. You also taught us a song about drinking at an early age. That, if you want me to sing it, I can. That says, "Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a drink about an hour ago, and it went right to my head." Now, you have taught it to my boys, ages 7 and 10. You were definitely a good role model. Thank you. You have taught me so many things throughout my life, from when I was little through my adult years. You have taught me to have a thick skin. I used to be extremely emotional. Now I'm less emotional, thanks to you. You taught me how to make your favorite drink, a vodka gimlet. Unfortunately, I did not really remember the exact measurements, and you got a little tipsy. As a result, you never let me make a drink for you again. I was fired as the bartender. You suggested I go into medicine. Well, I learned a little and married a doctor. You taught me how fun it is to be silly. Your goofy faces, funny voices always make the day better. You taught me about your love for wrestling at a young age, taking Matt and I to a professional wrestling match. And that was where I learned some skills to use at home on Matt when he was being mean to me. You took me driving on the highway and helped teach me how to drive. Unfortunately, I almost hit a deer. You taught me magic tricks. However, not sure I ever figured them out. They were really good tricks. You taught my husband, Ricky, about the birds and the bees. Ricky appreciates all your advice and wants to let you know that Asher and Noah exist, but not because of what you taught him. Hee hee. My kids adored you. They loved spending quality time when we came home to visit. Thank you for all your love and interest in them. They are so lucky to have had quality time with their great-grandpa. And I have 2 letters that they wrote to him. Dear Papa Bob, I remember that Papa Bob called us other names, like Joe and George, instead of Asher and Noah. We all thought that was funny. That is one of the things I will remember about him. I'll miss giving you goldfish crackers. I know you really like them. Love, Asher. I love you. My Papa Bob. When I went to visit Papa Bob, we would discuss the Indians and how they were doing. We were so happy when he progressed after a surgery a few years ago. Papa Bob was funny. He liked to laugh. He lived a long life and did many good things. I will miss you. Love, Noah. Papa, you love sports and politics. Debating maybe is the more appropriate word. And looking for new things to invent. You love to watch professional wrestling. You loved pistachios and peanuts.
You loved watching America's Got Talent and Dancing with the Stars. You loved the voices of Josh Groban, Celine Dion, and Andrea Bocelli. But most of all, you loved your family. You were an amazing husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Papa, I'm not going to lie. This totally sucks. It's going to take time for my heart to heal, but I know you're smiling down on me, and you're with me whenever I need you, reminding me of what you taught me. I love you so much, Papa. I will miss you more than you know. I hope you and Mama are chasing butterflies together and dancing in the stars. Love, Penny.
I should have gone first. I don't know if there's really much left for me to say, but I am Bob's son, so I'll find something. I thought about a couple of things, and I'm just going to kind of free spin this and kind of go where it goes, because that's kind of the way that Dad lived his life and what he did. The enormity of life cycle can be smothering. As much as we prepare ourselves and think about today, it saddens my heart, but I'm overflowing with peace and contentment and a love for my dad that I simply cannot define. I'm thankful we had a quality 93 years with Dad, and Dad and I spent a lot of time talking, and really, while we talked our whole life and we always shared moments and we really didn't hold anything back, the last 5 years were definitive for me and definitive for him. And I was thinking this morning that it's kind of a passage that comes with the loss of a parent. While Gay and I have had our families, and Sid and Linda have stood by our side raising our kids, it just dawned on me that the matriarch and the patriarch responsibilities now become ours. And boy, did he prepare us for that. He really gave us the strength and the insight through example, through discussions, through his teachings. Matt had the foresight 2 years ago or 3 years ago at Jenna's naming when Dad was able to travel and went back to New York. And he decided to do an interview. And he recorded it. It was priceless. It was about an hour and a half of Dad talking about his life, about the things that Rabbi Rosie has shared, and Matt and Penny shared a little bit about his life, his growing up, some of the trials and tribulations, and we all have them. They're a different story, but they're the same. And it was really a priceless, intimate conversation, but there were so many jewels that came out of that. And he talked about raising kids, and he said, you can read the books, you can go to the psychologists, and listen to Dr. Phil, which I regret enjoyed, but he said it's really a simple approach. He says it's not complicated. We just use common sense. Instilling and I'm quoting him, instilling in Gay and Mitch, as we've taken that learning and instilled that in our children, to be yourself, do your best. Keep your eyes open and don't put your head down in the sand. Be young, be smart, don't cross the line. But I do have to admit I challenged him on that on more than one occasion. But you'll have to ask me about all that later. and to be kind and to love. And Dad's life is complete because of Mom. And I said this 5 years ago, and I'll say it again. Maybe the biggest lesson that Dad gave us was the lesson of unconditional love. The way he cared for Mom and the way he cared for us and the attention that he gave us was unmeasurable. And we've passed that along to our kids. My relationship with Dad was extraordinary, and he taught me things. He was a teacher, and he was a teacher of life to me. My early days were like a Norman Rockwell painting. Growing up from a very young age, Matt got it a little bit older in the garage in Brompton, but we were back on Etzel Drive. I guess it would be in 57, 58, and the tools came out. A Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, here's a hammer, here's the level, and the level was his priceless level. And from a very early age, there's this picture of this young father leaning over his blonde-haired, blue-eyed little kid, putting a screw into a piece of wood or hammering a nail into a thing. And those lessons and those tools are priceless. So as I got older, and I did different things with Dad, he always was interested in how we were doing it, what we were doing, and 3,000 miles away, you're going to build a chicken coop? How are you going to build a chicken coop? What are you going to do? What's the footage? What's the square footage? And he would just take his lumber experience and just try to be as helpful as he could at all times. Here's a perfect example. When I was a Cub Scout, Dad's thing was, you've got to do things, remember, do your best, and don't keep your head in the sand, and make the best effort, and no one can ever question you. So Cub Scout, Pinewood Derby, we've all had our kids or our grandkids where you've built the little Pinewood model, and we were downstairs in his little wood shop, and it'd be really easy as a parent to just, give me that, I'll get it done, and I'll make it right, and we can slip this secret little weight in here and, make this thing go faster. No. If it wound up with four wheels and the front of the car was really the back of the car, it wouldn't have mattered. But he made me do it myself, and he instilled in me to always take pride in what you do, no matter how it comes out. At least you did it your way, and that's something. It's funny when these things happen. Those things come back, and they're jewels. When Dad got ill a couple years ago, and he fought his way back, to no surprise, frankly, he started scrapbooking, and he put together a book of his military legacy, and we talked a lot about that. Look, Dad had passions in life, and the passions in his life were Mom first, but love of his country, and you'd go into his apartment 2 days ago, and there's his military shot, a 19-year-old in uniform, his mechanic crew right outside the Memphis Belle. And through this scrapbook, he had gone back, and at 90 remembered names, people, and things, and gave us that history. He loved this city. There's no better ambassador to Cleveland than Bob Gluckman. We're coming back, man. I know the city's crumbling, but we're going to come back, and slowly but surely. We got the Republican convention, and you should see what's going on in the flats. And last Father's Day was awesome. I came back in town, and the Cavaliers accommodated me with Game 6 and Game 7. So So Dad's in his apartment, and he was always quick to not have anyone go out of his way. Go, Dad, no, we're going to grill steaks. We're going to have gimlets. We're going to rock this game. And we did. And at midnight, we were a couple of lunatic frat boys screaming and yelling, waking up anybody that had their hearing aids still in at Acacia on the Green because the Cavaliers won. And we both shed a tear over, finally, Cleveland has something to be proud about. So it's that kind of passion for his city, his sports teams. Matt talked about the Browns, and he did it way more justice than I did. But he is a relentlessly devoted fan. And, you know, while Dad, those who know him intimately, can have a tendency to maybe not get past that half full glass kind of attitude, there always was at least a little bit of water in there. And with the Browns, pegged all the way to the right. They're going to come back. I know we've been through 15 quarterbacks. We'll get one more. We'll figure it out. And I think just to kind of, there's a couple interesting things that go on. And Penny had a beautiful list describing Dad as being a kind man and a caring man and a loving man. And he'd challenge you on any point, and he would make the social faux pas of, you know, getting into politics, getting into religion. If I introduced him to new friends in California, he'd start in, the table would get quiet, and I'm trying to kick him on the table going, Dad, stop. You know, this just isn't the way to go. But here's an example, and Rabbi Rosie mentioned it. Here's an example that I shared with her yesterday. We were sitting in her office, and the dark Cleveland clouds were outside the window, and the storms looked like they were coming in. And Dad would look up and he'd say, "Boy, Mitch, snow's coming. We're gonna get hammered. The lake effect's coming. The sky's getting darker. We're gonna have to button up. Got to salt the driveway. Call the snowplow." And I'm, well, no, Dad, the cloud. There's some blue behind the clouds, and there's sun that's backing up some of the clouds. I think it's gonna break up, and I think it's gonna open up and be just fine. And he'd say, no, it's coming. This will go on for a while. And then I'd say, you know what? I think you're right. It's getting darker out there. And it's, well, no, Mitch, you know, there's blue behind the clouds and there's sun coming out. I think it's going to be a good day. Let's go have a picnic. And that's Dad, Bob, Papa. He just, and I'd ask him, why do you do that? He says, well, you know, it keeps me going. You know, he'll poke at you and beat you to submission, and then you learn how to get around it. That's not a negative, that's a positive, because at 93, he was doing it to me 3 days ago. So I'm thankful for all of that. And I like to leave you with this thought, and I talked to the rabbi again about this, and you know, we as Jews kind of do it right. We've got options when we think about death and where we go. And it's simply this, is that I've got this picture of Dad with Mom, with his sister, dancing, enjoying life, and he's so at peace. And I'm at a loss of a dad, but I also lost my best friend. And he'd be so surprised that he filled the room. And I thank you all for coming, and I thank you for celebrating his life, and embracing our family. And God bless you, Dad. God bless all of you.
Each of you has precious memories of Bob. We take a moment now as we silently compose the eulogy of our own hearts. Yihiyu l'ratzon imrei fi v'hegyon libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'goali. May not only the words that we speak, but even our most precious and private meditations be acceptable to you, our God, our rock, and our Redeemer. Amen. We ask God to accept Bob's soul with the words of El Malay. Please rise. El Malay Rachamim, Shochein Ba'amromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim U'Tohorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Ruvain Ben Miriam V'Moshe, Shehalach Le'olamo. Baal Harachamim, Yastirehu Beseter Knafav Le'olamo, B'Yitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar Amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Robert W. Gluckman, who has entered unto eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us answer, Amen. You may be seated. Our service continues at the Mayfield Cemetery, and the family invites you to join them following the service at Galen and Sid's home, which is 1507 Felton Road. Today following the services until 4, and then this evening from 7 to 9.